The American bison, often referred to as the buffalo, is one of the most iconic animals in North American history, a symbol of the Great Plains and a living connection to the natural and cultural heritage of the continent. Its story is both one of abundance and near extinction, resilience and revival, tied deeply to the environment it roamed and the people who lived alongside it. For thousands of years, bison were the dominant grazing animals on the vast prairies of North America, shaping ecosystems, providing sustenance for indigenous cultures, and eventually becoming a central figure in the narrative of American expansion, exploitation, and conservation. Fossil evidence reveals that bison are descendants of ancestors that crossed from Asia into North America over the Bering Land Bridge during the Pleistocene epoch, and the species gradually evolved into the massive herds that would once thunder across the plains. By the time European settlers arrived, it is estimated that between 30 to 60 million bison inhabited the continent, stretching from the Appalachian Mountains in the east to the Rocky Mountains in the west, and from Canada down into Mexico. For indigenous peoples of the Great Plains and surrounding regions, the bison was not merely a resource, but a foundation of life, central to culture, spirituality, and survival. Tribes such as the Lakota, Cheyenne, Blackfoot, and many others developed ways of life intricately tied to the movements and behaviors of bison herds. Every part of the animal was used, from the meat for food to the hides for clothing and shelter, and bones for tools and weapons. Bison were honored in ceremonies and oral traditions, symbolizing abundance, respect for nature, and a deep relationship between humans and the natural world. Hunting was done with skill and reverence, often involving communal drives that required coordination, patience, and respect for the balance of the herd. In this way, the bison shaped not only the physical survival of indigenous peoples, but also their spiritual and cultural identities. The arrival of European settlers and westward expansion, however, dramatically altered this relationship. By the early 19th century, the bison had already begun to feel the pressure of overhunting. Settlers and traders prized bison hides and tongues, and with the development of railroads, hunters could kill animals on a massive scale and ship their products to distant markets. Commercial hunting, often supported by government policies aimed at undermining indigenous populations by destroying their main food source, pushed the species to the brink of extinction. Between the 1830s and the 1880s, the slaughter of bison reached catastrophic levels, with professional hunters killing thousands of animals each day. Buffalo Bill Cody, a famous figure of the era, claimed to have killed over 4,000 bison in just 2 years. By the end of the 19th century, the great herds that had once numbered in the tens of millions were reduced to fewer than 1,000 individuals scattered across small pockets of the continent. This decimation of the bison population was not only an environmental tragedy, but also a cultural catastrophe for indigenous peoples. The destruction of the bison herds was a deliberate strategy in the U.S. government's broader efforts to force Native Americans onto reservations and strip them of their traditional way of life. Without the bison, tribes lost their main source of food, clothing, and materials, leading to widespread starvation and hardship. The loss reverberated far beyond survival, cutting into the heart of cultural practices, ceremonies, and the spiritual bond between people and the land. The near extinction of the bison became symbolic of the broader displacement and suffering endured by native peoples during this era of expansion and conquest. Yet, even in this darkest chapter of bison history, seeds of recovery were being planted. Toward the end of the 19th century, conservationists, ranchers, and a few far-sighted leaders recognized the urgency of saving the species from complete eradication. Individuals such as William Temple Hornaday and Charles Goodnight began efforts to preserve small herds. In 1905, the American Bison Society was founded with the support of President Theodore Roosevelt, one of the early champions of wildlife conservation. These efforts, combined with the establishment of protected lands such as Yellowstone National Park, where a small population of wild bison had survived, laid the groundwork for the species' revival. Slowly but steadily, through captive breeding programs, reintroduction projects, and legal protections, the American bison began to recover. Today, the bison stands as one of the greatest conservation success stories in American history, though its recovery is still incomplete. From fewer than 1,000 animals at the lowest point, the population has rebounded to roughly 500,000 across the United States and Canada. Many of these live on private ranches, managed both for conservation and commercial purposes, while others roam freely in protected areas such as Yellowstone, Wind Cave National Park, and various tribal lands. Indigenous communities, too, have played a vital role in restoring the bison, seeing its return as a way to reconnect with traditional lifeways and strengthen cultural identity. The Intertribal Buffalo Council, formed in 1992, has been instrumental in facilitating the return of bison to tribal lands, ensuring that the animal once again fulfills its role as a living relative, teacher, and provider. The ecological role of the bison is another critical aspect of its history and resurgence. As keystone grazers, bison shape the landscapes they inhabit. Their grazing patterns encourage plant diversity, and their wallowing behavior creates microhabitats that benefit insects, birds, and small mammals. Unlike cattle, bison are well adapted to the grasslands, moving across large areas in ways that prevent overgrazing and maintain healthy ecosystems. The restoration of bison herds is not just a cultural or symbolic act, but also an ecological necessity for reviving the prairies of North America, which have themselves been drastically reduced by agriculture and development. In 2016, the American bison was officially designated as the national mammal of the United States, a recognition of its enduring significance as a symbol of resilience, strength, and survival. It stands alongside the bald eagle as a national emblem, representing both the tragic lessons of overexploitation and the hopeful possibilities of conservation. The bison's journey from near extinction to recovery mirrors broader themes in American history: the tension between exploitation and preservation, destruction and renewal, and the ongoing effort to find balance between human progress and respect for the natural world. Despite the progress, challenges remain. Most bison today live in managed herds, and genetic diversity is limited due to the small number of animals that survive the mass slaughter. There are also debates about the management of wild bison populations, particularly when they migrate outside protected areas and come into conflict with cattle ranching interests. Disease transmission, land use, and the balance between wild and commercial herds all continue to shape the future of the species. Still, the remarkable recovery of the bison offers hope and inspiration, demonstrating that even at the brink of extinction, dedicated efforts can restore a species and, with it, a measure of the balance once lost. The story of the American bison is ultimately one of interconnection between humans and nature, past and present, devastation and renewal. It reminds us of the power of respect, the costs of exploitation, and the resilience of life when given a chance to endure. From the endless herds that once darkened the plains to the small scattered groups that survived against all odds, and finally to the thriving populations of today, the bison embodies both the fragility and the strength of the natural world. Its history continues to unfold, a testament to the lessons of the past and a guide for the future of conservation.